novelty, jumping at the first opportunity. But for some, it was very, very difficult as well. For the next hour, we're going to be talking all things water, from how much our body needs it to how much the environment needs it as well, and how we should be doing our part to help conserve the one thing that we arguably need the most. Now, I'm joined today by Sophie Shand, who's the owner of Fulham Nutrition, to chat about the effects of water on our bodies and minds. Sophie, good afternoon to you.
Hi there. Nice to see you.
How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Very well, thank you.
Good. Are you enjoying the sunshine, but also staying hydrated?
Well, I've been called the water lady for many years, so that is definitely my priority, yes.
Oh, fantastic. I tell you what, I'm going to need some tips on this, because I know for a fact that I definitely do not drink enough water. So, first of all, can you tell me a little bit about Fulham Nutrition? What exactly is it that you do?
So basically, I'm a nutritional therapist. And so what I do is I do a full assessment of your health picture. From birth to the present day, also including some family history. And we do a deep dive into how your body functions, what's going on for you, and how you can use your diet as a way to optimize your health. In addition to that, and in recent years, I do a lot more work on the mental emotional level, because I've realized that a lot of the habits that we have, the unhealthy habits we have, come from the thoughts and feelings that we have. And if we don't rewire our mind, our brain, the way we think and feel, and look at some of those belief systems we have, then it's very difficult to change our habits. So a lot of the work is processing negative emotions and helping you to feel really good about yourself, and to come from a place of non-judgment and self-compassion, so that you can then, it's not so difficult to make changes then. You're not holding so tightly onto the chocolate bars and the alcohol at night, because you're recognizing, oh, I need it because I need to feel relaxed, or I need some energy. And then from there, you can really, in a compassionate way, not judge yourself. You can still have these things occasionally, but you start to recognize the behavior behind it, the thoughts behind it. And it's so much easier to make changes that way, rather than sticking yourself on some rigid plan that you hate with gritted teeth. And then 6 weeks after it's finished, you've put all the weight back on because you're on this yo-yo cycle.
That's it. I think we've all been there, haven't we? I mean, we've all tried, sort of what turn out to be fad diets, and they seem all sparkly to start with, and then they're really, really hard to kind of stick to. It's interesting, really, isn't it? Because when you think about, fuel for your body and giving yourself the right nutrition, and it does affect your mood, but you normally think more about food than you do with water. Does it really affect your mood and your wellness that much by being hydrated?
Absolutely. It is absolutely it's the one thing when I go in and give company talks, if there's one thing, and obviously I make a lot of suggestions, but if there's one thing I'd love them to take away, is drinking more water. And it's understanding that we are living in a modern environment, and we're having to adapt, and the body is wonderful at adapting, because a lot of people say to me, well, why do I need to drink all this water? Well, the reality is if we lived more naturally, if we lived more in accordance with nature, if we think of tribal communities, if we think of traditional Aboriginal communities, when you live closer to nature, you create less destruction in the body. And the body is able to utilize every single drop of water that you drink, because the cell integrity, the cell membrane is healthier. The problem with the onslaught of modern living, of technology, of fast food, of alcohol, of, fizzy drinks and rubbish, is that it starts to loosen that integrity, break down that integrity, and the ability for the body to use every nutrient well, and particularly to use every drop of water well. So we do need to drink a lot more than our ancestors did. And that can be something that sort of makes people question and almost argue about it and say, well, why? And this is the reality. It's a very modern environment. We have a lot of pollution, satellite dishes in space, driving, flying, 4G, computers, phones. It's all got a vibration to it, which has a dehydrating effect. And that is the beginning of any negative process that happens in the body. It's the beginning of every disease process in the body is dehydration.
Wow.
And that's because we're 70 to 80% fluid. We're 80% fluid in the brain. So when we get that brain fog, when we get that drop in energy, when we're sat in an air-conditioned office all day working hard, we're not exposing ourselves to the natural environment, we're going to get really dehydrated. Our energy levels will drop. Our blood sugar will drop. We'll then want to eat something or drink something. And invariably that will be a tea or coffee, a stimulant. It might be a bar of chocolate, something to get our blood sugar up. And the problem is that then dehydrates us even more.
So how much water should we be drinking in a day then?
Well, this is the thing you have to kind of assess for yourself. So I would say, some people, some research out there will say you've got to do it according to body weight and so on. But I find that doesn't actually work. So I say across the board, typically 2 litres of water a day. Mm-hmm. Never more than 2 pints or 1 litre in 1 hour. So you spread it out through the day. But 2 litres is, I would say, certainly in hot weather, the minimum.
Yeah.
But of course, it's affected by how much tea and coffee you're drinking, how much chocolate, how much alcohol, how much processed food. If your diet is full of salads and soups and brown rice and vegetables, you're going to be getting a lot of water from your food. And so your water requirement might not be so high. So it is an individual thing that you need to assess for yourself somewhat. And exercise, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And what are some of the benefits that you can get from making sure that you're hydrated all of the time?
It is so massive. I cannot tell you, because it's the first it's the first thing that goes wrong in any disease process. So any inflammation in the body, whether it's spots, whether it's achy joints, whether it's headaches, whether it's brain fog, whether it's hot flushes, whether it's poor energy levels, you will benefit from that because water has a cleansing effect on the body. It's needed by every single cell. It's needed for every single function. It's the first port of call whenever you have anything that's not right with your system. You start with water, and then from there, you look at how much you're drinking. You look at what is upsetting that. So, for example, people think tea and coffee is good. The problem with tea and coffee, it's a diuretic. So it actually causes you to lose more water. Herb tea is less of a problem. It's still not water. But it's fine. Fruit tea is fine. That's just fruit with a bit of water. That's fine. Because people say, can I add things? Lemon, lime, cucumber. You can. I mean, lime and lemon, not so good if you've got achy joints because it's aggressively cleansing. So this is when we start getting into all the niche parts of eating. Yeah. So there's all sorts of things to learn in this whole subject.
Wow. And how do you keep on top of it? Because I'm somebody who, I'm sure a lot of my problems could be solved if I just drank more water. And, it is the things like the brain fog and the tiredness and maybe some headaches every now and again that you do get. What is a good way to stay on top of your water consumption? How can I remind myself in a more efficient way to drink more?
Well, there's 2 things. One is to actually download a water app that then reminds you every hour to drink. Have you had your drink yet? So that's one thing. The other thing is to put bottles of water in your car, in your office, and in your handbag, or your suitcase or whatever, just having it with you, visible in front of you is really good to do as well. And it is a training. It's like training your body. Some of my clients will say, I hate water, passionately hate water, hate the taste of it. Well, first of all, just check that it's clean water. You might want to check it's filtered. Yeah. Or you might want to buy bottled water, or you can now buy charcoal, which is just pieces of charcoal that have been treated that can keep your water clean for up to 6 months. And you just put that into your jug of water or your glass of water. So that's kind of how you can start with it. And just reminding yourself of the benefits when you do it, and when you're about to eat or before you want your cup of tea or coffee, have a glass of water first, because that's going to bring your blood sugar up, and typically we'll get the brain fog when our body's reaching it's dropping, the blood sugar's dropping.
Sure.
And so that's when we need something. And that's why we crave the drugs, as I call them, the chocolate, the tea, coffee, to try to feel better. But what if you started with the glass of water, and then you might want the cup of tea or coffee, you might not, but hydration, it's getting your thirst back. A lot of people have lost their thirst because after a while, the body just stops being thirsty.
It's interesting, actually. I think I read something quite a while ago now, but it's like a sort of late night snacking and that sort of thing. Your body thinks that you want sugar or whatever it is, crisps or whatever that people snack on. But actually, a tip that I'd heard, and I don't know, maybe you can fact bust this for me. A tip that I'd heard is that if you have a glass of water and then wait for 7 minutes and see if you still want it, and I have tried it, for me, it actually works. Is this something that you've come across before?
Yeah, and that's exactly what I just said before. It's bringing your blood sugar up and I think a lot of the weight concerns we have is a confusion between hunger and thirst. We think we're hungry, but actually we're incredibly thirsty. But the problem is if you don't feed that thirst, and that can be from childhood, that we stop drinking enough water and the adults around us are not hydrating. So the children are not hydrating and you lose that thirst, and you lose it easily. You lose that thirst easily. Once you start drinking again, your thirst comes back. But again, if you leave it for a while, you need to keep on it. You do need to keep doing it.
I think one of the most difficult things, particularly in the summer holidays, is getting our the children to keep drinking water. Have you got any tips, for them and for parents as well, to make sure that children can keep on top of their hydration, but also understand the importance of it?
The adults taking care of the children need to start with themselves first. Children do not learn by being told, they learn by example. So it's about the adult really getting in touch with their own thirst and making sure they're hydrating, and then just simply reminding the child, because when the adult makes it a priority for themselves, then they will make it a priority for their child also. Otherwise, it's hopeless, because the adult's not going to be in touch with their thirst, so they're not going to think to even tell their child to drink water. So that's the first thing, really. And, just reminding them of how they feel when they've let themselves get really thirsty and dehydrated. You feel sluggish. You can see the brightness of the person's eyes, the glowing of the skin when they drink plenty of water. Hopefully I'm a good example if you go on my website. But people do say you've got bright eyes. So, it's hopefully I'm an example. So if you need reminding, go and look on my website.
Do you think as islanders that we should be more conscious of the ways that we use water as well?
In reference to what? What are you alluding to?
In terms of obviously drinking water is really, really important, but we've got to be conscious about how much water we're using, things like showers and things like that as well. Sort of talking about water consumption as a whole.
Conservation. Yeah, water conservation. And the way I can relate it to my particular profession is that when you're taking care of your body and you're eating healthily, you don't need as much water. So when you are dealing with your stress, when you're living life in accordance with your truth, as opposed to living a life that's, that you hate your job and so on and so forth, when you're not stressed or less stressed or dealing with your stress, because that creates physical dehydration as well. And when you're eating in a natural way, like I said before, more swollen diet, you don't need to drink as much water. So in that respect, you're conserving the planet's water. So it comes round about. But yes, of course, being wise to turning the tap off as you're brushing your teeth. You don't need to keep it running, do you? You don't need to flush the loo if you've done just a wee, it's that you can just close the lid, and, that you don't have to do this all the time. The showers can be short. And what I noticed with sea swimming here, I think I was told that there's less salt in the water. It's the only place where I don't feel I need to have a shower afterwards. Whereas if I'm sort of in a tropical place or somewhere, it's so sticky. The salt is so dry on my skin. It's so uncomfortable.
That's very true. I think so too, yeah.
Yeah, it's not absolutely necessary to have a shower afterwards. I mean, it might be that it feels better if you do, but yeah, absolutely. Those are all things you can be aware of.
Well, some brilliant tips there. Thank you so much. That was Sophie Shand from the Fulham.